Good evening, everyone. This is Cam here, bringing you another tech lecture. Today in this video we are going to cover Amazon Web Services regions and availability zones. So we're going to cover the differences between those and how they relate to one another. This is going to be part of our Amazon Web Services series, so actually getting started with AWS, learning some of the AWS services. This is the third video in our AWS installment, so be sure to check out the other two for more information. This video hopefully will clear up some confusion that some people might be having with the differences between a region and an availability zone. I covered that a little bit in the last video. This is going to be a more in-depth video to help demonstrate and depict what the differences are. Alright, let me increase the size of this graphic for you. So I'm going to use this graphic to try and help explain this. This is not going to be a very long video, hopefully. Hopefully this will cover what we need to, and then we can move on. So, alright, so this is Amazon Web Services as a whole. Within there we have different regions. So a region, think of that as like a big data center, so to speak. And then within that data center, we can have little smaller data centers. Okay, so regions are completely isolated from one another. So an example of a region is Ohio. Ohio has a region. Currently there's a Northern Virginia region as well. So these are entirely separated from one another, and there's no link between the two. Now the differences between the regions and availability zones are availability zones inside of a region all have a low latency link that connects them all together. So the thing is, something to be aware of is that in my AWS account under Northern Virginia, I may have US East 1A. You may have US East 1B. So we may not have the same, or, well, for instance, my US East 1A may be different than your US East 1A. So availability zones are not locked down to specific AWS accounts. So they're not the same. They are not the same between different AWS accounts. So that's not a huge deal. That is something to be aware of potentially. So to kind of reiterate that, my availability zone 1 may not be the same as your availability zone 1. Or the availability zone 1 of a different AWS account. Hopefully that kind of cleared that up a little bit. But something to also be aware of, part of the purpose behind these availability zones is for fault tolerance and failovers in situations. So sometimes, not very rare or not very commonly, but occasionally an availability zone could go down within AWS's infrastructure. If that happens, if you are making use of this connection here and you have instances that are configured to run in both or in multiple availability zones, and they're configured correctly, if this availability zone crashes, you can actually have your infrastructure fall over to this secondary, these secondary instances that you made over here, to where there's no downtime or very minimal downtime. Now, like I said, this doesn't happen very often within Amazon. Amazon's a big organization that has a ton of support behind it, so it's not a very common thing, but it does happen from time to time. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I should make you all aware of. That's about it. I mean, that pretty much covers the main components of this. There are several regions. I'll show you them within the management console. So if you log into the management console, under your account over here, beside your account name, you have your region. So as you can see, we have US East Northern Virginia, we have Ohio, Northern California. These are your different regions. And if you click on them, it'll completely reload the console and switch you to your new region. So to help reiterate this, we'll switch back to Ohio. And then in our previous video, we created an instance. So this instance is stopped. Now, to help demonstrate this, if I switch my region to Northern Virginia, that instance will no longer show up here because I don't have any instances running in this region. Now, within this Ohio region, I can have multiple instances running in different availability zones. So in this case, I'm running in the Ohio region, but I'm in the US East 2C availability zone. I could also be in US East 2B and have an instance in here, and that instance would show up here as well. So hopefully this depiction kind of clears the differences between availability zones and regions up for you guys. I'm not trying to make this a super in-depth video as far as the differences. This is kind of just an overall 10,000 foot view of what the two are, and that's all we're going to need to know for a good portion of this series. If we have to go a little more in depth, then we will, but hopefully this covers the basics for everyone and that you find this useful for the rest of the series. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Feel free to subscribe if you would like more content or to follow along with our AWS series. We also have several other videos on different topics, but right now we are focusing on the Amazon Web Services series. So if you have recommendations or things you'd like to see, let me know. But otherwise, have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you all in the next video.